Okay, good morning, ladies, or good afternoon, more like. I'm a little bit of a late starter today. So I'm going to show you how to do the barbecue boards. So right now I'm just going to start at the beginning for any of you who are new, and I'm going to show you how I am doing the logo. So the one I'm working on right now is going to be a Giants one. My son is a huge Giants fan. So all I did was Google Giants logo, and this is literally the first one that pops up. So I went ahead and saved that to my computer, come into Design Space, upload images, I'm just going to type in Giants logo. Once it comes up, you're going to click on Simple Image and continue, and then you're just going to click the blue and the white areas so you're just left with the red outline. And I have already done that, so I'm going to skip that. I have it right here. So as you can see, I have just my black outline. Now obviously you can do this in Inkscape or another program. I am Inkscape illiterate, so I like to do everything in Design Space. So once I have it in Design Space, I'm going to come over here in the corner of my layers panel and click contour. Then I'm going to, as you can see, when you hover your mouse over, you'll get outlines of different things. So I'm going to click on the center ones and then click on the negative space, and that gives me my shadow. So then I'm going to duplicate that, and then I'm going to click contour again, and I'm going to re-click those center areas, and I'm also going to click on the outlines, and that gives me my inside layer. So just to give you a visual, there is my logo. So I think it's pretty fast and easy just to do it in Inkscape using contour. So I'm going to delete these. So I'm cutting a stencil, and I'm using 631 as my stencil. So I already have that ready. So I made everything the same color because I'm going to use paint, so the color really doesn't matter. I just want them all to cut on the same mat to save space. So I already have done that. So here are my stencils. I just weeded out the negative area, and I will transfer these to my board. So I'm going to pause right here and move over to the area with the board, and we can get started. I'm so excited. I love to paint. So I will be back in 2 seconds. Okay, so here we are. I have my board. Now to prep the board, all I did was take some sandpaper and sanded the edges and the corners just so they weren't so sharp. And then I wiped the whole thing off with a paper towel, a dry one, just so that, to get all the dust off. So I like the weathered look. If you look at the Broncos one I did, you can kind of see a gray base behind the white that I did. So on this one, I'm going to do that same thing except for with blue to match my theme. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the plastic off this paint. So the paint I use is just this Craft Smart. It's like 70 cents at Michael's, and I just squirt it right onto my board, and I use the sponge brushes. It doesn't need to be anything super fancy. I'm going to go over this with white anyway. So I am going to do this step, and I will be right back. Okay, so I have my layer of blue on there. It's just a super light layer. I can still see the wood grain through the blue. As you can see, I have not done the sides or the back yet. I usually get my front done and then I'll do the sides and the back. I don't do the same full out process. I'll just do the sides and the back white. So I'll just do the same thing. Just pour my white right on there. And it'll usually take 2 coats of the white to where I'm happy with the amount of blue I can see through. And I just apply a little at a time, because if it sits on there too long, then you'll be able to see where the paint splatter was, even if you paint over it. I love to use these sponge brushes. I just like the finish that it gives. And you can still see quite a bit of the blue, which I'm totally fine with, because I'm going to sand this down when I'm done, so you can see some of that blue coming through. So I am going to try to not make this video like 15 hours long. So I am going to finish this step and then I will come back. Okay, so this is after 1 coat. As you can see, I can still see quite a bit of the blue, and I actually really like this, but I'm going to put a little bit more white on just because when I sand, more of that blue is going to come through. Like I said, I love these brushes. I like the finish that it gives me. With the bristles, I find a lot of times I'll get little hairs, unless you get like the super expensive ones. But these are so inexpensive and totally reusable, and I'm all about saving money, especially when you're trying to make money off the things that you're making. So I'm going to let this dry. It dries really, really fast. So since I started with the blue, it's only been maybe 10 or 15 minutes. So this isn't something that has to take you the whole day. I wish we could do this live so I could answer questions that you guys have, but after I post the video, I'll look through the comments, and any questions that you guys have that I didn't answer, I'd be happy to answer those for you. So I'm going to add a little bit more right here in this dark area. Taking long strokes at the end will help so you don't have the little splotchy marks from the brush. And you can do as much as you want. You could just do the whole thing just white if you wanted to. I like that color showing through. I think it gives depth to the project and helps blend with the colors that I'm using in the logo. I just personally like that look. I can't believe it's stayed this quiet for so long. I have a house full of rowdy boys that are usually knocking at my door asking the most absurd questions on the planet. I'm sure most of you can relate to that. So I think that is about perfect for what I'm going for. So I'm going to let this dry for about 10 minutes, and then I'm going to sand it a little before I do my next layer. So as soon as it's dry, I will come back so you can see the sanding process, and we will place our first set of stencils. Yay! Okay, see you soon. All right, so it's been about 10 minutes. So I'm going to take my sandpaper. The sandpaper I use, I don't even know. It's just something that we had laying around the house that it's on a roll. I'm sure it went to a sander of some sort, and I just take it off the roll, fold it in half, and have at whatever I need it for. So I'm going to sand over this very lightly. I want to bring out a little bit of that blue in the background and also make this a smoother finish. So you can see as I sand, there's little specks of blue that are popping up. I love the character that it gives in the wood. So the amount you sand is just going to depend on how much of that blue you actually want to show through. So for the most part, I try to stay with the grain of the wood. I love doing the ends so you can see that blue come right through around the edges. I love that look. That blue pops right out of there. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with the way that looks. So now I'm going to take my paper towel again. It gets pretty dusty, even with just that little bit, and I'm going to wipe it clean. Now you don't want it to be wet at all because the wood is so porous, it just soaks up anything that you put on there, and it will stay damp, and it will be a lot harder on your stencil. There we go. Now, let me see if I can get that positioned decent for you. So I have my stencils attached to my transfer tape already. So when I figured sizing for Design Space, I literally just took a tape measure, brought it over here, and measured about how far across I wanted it. So this one I ended up doing 10 inches by about 4.5 inches. And I think that's a pretty perfect size. I don't have like a science to it. I just kind of eyeball things. So a good way to find the center. So this is about 11 inches, so my center is going to be right at about 6 inches. You can take it and fold it in half and just make a little pinch there. That gives you about your halfway mark. So that's going to be about my center right there. If it's off a little bit, to me it's not the end of the world. These are handmade and they're not going to be completely perfect every time. If it's close enough, I'm usually happy with that. So when I line it up, I sometimes line up the bottom of the word because that's going to give me a pretty straight line. And then I'll just move it down from there. So that looks pretty centered. Sure, why not? So I'll press that down. I don't use a scraper. I don't want to ruin the wood that I prepped. Just my fingernails good enough. Go kind of slow. It will have trouble sticking in some places. I like it to be as neat as possible. I have had it tear. I just placed it back down and it really didn't make a difference because I was just painting it. You couldn't tell that there was ever an issue with my stencil, but it's still nice to have it pretty perfect for when you put the paint on. All right. So once I have that on there, I'm just going to push it down a little better. So this piece of wood is really, really smooth. So I don't really need to put a layer of Mod Podge first. If your wood had thick grooves in it and it was really uneven, then you would want to do a layer of Mod Podge to get a seal around where your stencil is. But this is 631, so it's already sticking to the wood. I don't really feel like I need to do a seal other than that. So I'm going to do these words in red. So I'm going to use my sponge brush again. Now this is super easy. Everyone wanted to know how I got the weathered look in my text. So I'm just going to go in and lightly dab with this sponge brush. And I'll leave some places where I can still see the board through the paint. You want to be real careful around your edges. If you do get a little that goes outside of your stencil, I have had that happen. I just take the sandpaper and clean it up and it usually comes right off because I'm not doing super thick layer because I want it to look vintage. So you don't want to super load your brush with the color so that you can still see that through. I love doing this. It's like seriously so relaxing to me, especially when the children are being so well behaved. Really, I'll probably go out there as soon as it's done and the house will be like a tornado hit it. Which will be kind of true. There'll be 4 tornadoes that hit it. So I'm not going to pause. I'm going to just push through this. You can fast forward if you like. So I'm not pushing with a ton of pressure because I want to keep those areas that you can still see some of that white through. And even though I'm dabbing this and it looks rough, like you can see where it's lifting, once it dries, it actually smooths out quite a bit. Plus I'm going to sand over the top of it, so I'm not really too worried about that either. I should have played some music or something, so you wouldn't be hearing the silence. I would love to know where you guys are all from. So I posted my boards a couple days ago, the ones that I made, and I let everybody know where I got all of my supplies and whatnot. So I went back to get more supplies at Home Depot yesterday to do these ones. And when I went there the other day, there were like tons and tons of bottle openers, probably like 30 or more. So I went today and they were all gone, and I told my husband, I'm like, it's probably because I opened my big mouth in the craft group about where I got my supplies. And there was somebody that lived by me though and bought them all out. So today I had to drive a little bit farther to a different Home Depot because one of you went and bought up all my bottle openers. He was like, see what you get? So let's see. Almost done. I love these colors together. They're gonna stand out so good. Okay, so I'm literally not letting this dry at all. I'm taking the stencil straight off. be a little careful so those wet parts don't touch back down. Come on. Okay. So my original plan was to do this outside. We've had like wonderful weather here for weeks. I live in Salt Lake City and the weather here has been seriously beautiful for like the last 2 or 3 weeks. And today it is hideous outside. Like the wind is blowing so hard. It looks like the Wizard of Oz out there. And it is freezing cold. I had to turn on the heater in my car this morning. So here I am inside instead of outside. But it'll work. I usually have a little pair of tweezers handy to help me get these ones that stayed behind, but I won't make you wait while I go hunting. Voila! That turned out awesome. I'm super happy with that. All right, now let's move on to the logo. Here is the bigger piece. Okay, so I am going to place this. I'm going to paint it exactly the same as I just did the other one. The bottom color, I believe, on the logo is blue and the top is red, or maybe the bottom's red and the top's blue. I'll have to double check, but I'm going to paint the bottom layer and then I will come back and show you how I do on the next layer for the other color. So I will be back again. You guys are probably like, I swear if she tells me she's coming back one more time, but I'll hurry fast, I promise. Be right back. Okay, so I've already done the Y. So we're just going to do the end. So I did my stencil. I painted everything red just like we did with the Grillin and Chillin. Laid my stencil down, painted it all red. So now we're moving on. I'm going to see if I can get a little more right on there for you. Sorry. Okay, how's that? Okay, so the hardest part is lining it up. So my paint here was still a little bit wet when I put my stencil on. I'm totally fine with that because I sand it down and give it that same look anyway. So the hardest part is just getting the stencil on there straight. I definitely need to go over a little bit. So sure, that looks about right. Like I said, I'm totally fine with a little bit of my paint peeling because that's the look that I'm going for. Obviously, if you let the paint dry longer, that won't happen. But I'm fine with it. Just a second, baby. I got a knocker. It was only a matter of time. Oh. Let's see. All right. Just push down the edges so there's no little ripples where the paint is going to get in there. And just go to town with your blue. So that paint that peeled up there didn't even matter because I'm going right over that with blue. Being real careful on the edges. Okay. And again, once this is done, I do not let it dry at all. I immediately peel my stencil off. These are so much fun and like perfect for Father's Day. I'm doing one after this one that is for a grandma and grandpa. They buy tons of things for me. Easter, Valentine's Day, Christmas, they buy tons of stuff. They really love the personalized stuff, and they have a lake house at, if you're from Utah, at Echo Reservoir. And so I'm making them a barbecue board that says Echo Lake House on it, and then where this logo is, it says life is better at the lake. I bought the cutest SVG on Etsy. And it is going to be so cute. I'll be sure and post pictures of it so you guys can see that one. So start to finish, I've only been working on this board for about 45 minutes. Like the most time consuming part is just waiting for the layers to dry in between. So, moment of truth. Find a corner of my stencil. Beautiful. Oh, that is just perfect. Yay! So that is how I layer my paint. Like I said, if you don't want these little pieces peeled off, just let it dry an extra 10 minutes and you won't have that problem. It wasn't a big deal to me because that's the look I'm going for. So once this is dry, I'm going to sand it very, very lightly. If I sand it too much, I'm going to lose some of the design that I wanted on there, and I don't want to lose that. So the next step I'm going to do is let this dry. I'm going to let it dry for about 20 minutes, and then I'm going to lightly sand it, and then I'm going to paint the sides and the back just plain white. I'm not going to do the blue underneath. And then I'm going to put 2 coats of Mod Podge to seal it, and then I'm going to add my hardware on there. So once that's all done, I'll be sure to post another picture. I hope this helped some of you. I'm sorry, this is my first video, so I'm probably super boring and this took way too long, but I seriously love these signs. They are my absolute favorite. I love painting anything. So if you have any questions, please post them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. And I hope you guys have fun. Thanks so much. Bye.